Is this crazy rally from US stocks likely to continue, or has the market topped out? That's what we're talking about in today's video. We'll run through some key levels. I'll show you why the RSI could be showing signs of fatigue. We'll also take a look at the DXY, and I'll also explain why Nvidia could have a big moment coming up next week. And if you've been waiting to join our VIP group, I have an incredible offer for you this month that you're not going to want to miss. So click on the link at the top of this video, and you're going to be taken to my recommended broker, Blueberry Markets. Right now, we're running a promotion, guys, through March 12th. And the really cool part about this is this section right here. So you're going to get lifetime access to our VIP group if you deposit $200 or more with Blueberry Markets using my link. So that means you're going to get lifetime access to real-time market discussions in Discord. You're going to get exclusive charts and setups, daily videos. You'll be able to see my trades in real time. Plus, you're going to get lifetime access to the upcoming course. All for depositing just $200 or more with my broker. And also, you'll be entered to win a DJI Mini 4 Pro drone if you trade at least one lot before March 12th. All right, so again, this is a limited time offer, guys. So be sure to see the link in the description of this video, or if you're on the website, click on the broker link here at the top of the page, and you'll be taken directly to the Blueberry Markets page to sign up. So that's all you have to do, guys, for lifetime access to the VIP group. You don't have to pay me a dime. All you have to do is come over here, open up an account, fund it with $200 or more, place a single trade by March 12th, and you will have lifetime access to the VIP group, plus a chance to win that drone. All right, so I thought I would do things a little bit different today, being a Friday, and just kind of make a more casual video here talking about the stock market. Now, I know that this is primarily a forex channel here on YouTube and also the website, but I think that stocks are getting to a really interesting point here, and it's time to pay attention. Now, I know a lot of you don't trade stocks, and if you don't, that's fine, but this is also going to impact a lot of other markets, because this is still considered one of the #1 risk asset markets in the world. So even if you're trading forex alone, this is going to matter for you. So looking here at the S&P 500 SPX, you can see where since back here in late 2022, we have two trend lines. This one down here off of the lows, okay, and then we've got this one off of this high from back here, late 2022. We've got this one coming close to it, however, not quite. We've got the top of this wick here, and also this one here recently. Now, obviously, you can look at this here and see the similarities to this rally back here. So the market has gotten itself into a very overextended point. Now, I hate the term overbought. I don't use the term overbought, but it is definitely extended. There is no question about that. When you look at the rally from late last year, from down here just above 4K to now above 5K, that is an incredible rally in just a few months. Now, that alone doesn't mean that it's time to short, though. There's an old saying that markets can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent, and I think that this is a perfect example of why you don't want to be shorting up here, because the market could technically just continue on this rally for weeks or really even months. So we don't know that the market has topped out yet. We don't know where this market or any market is going to go for that matter. But one thing that I do want to show you, though, is the RSI. Now, to be clear, I do not use relative strength index in my trading. I don't use any indicators. However, this is something I found really interesting with regard to this recent move. So if you guys are familiar with RSI, or you can use MACD, a lot of different indicators that will show this. But if you notice back here during this rally, these higher highs that we saw here from SPX, all right, so we had higher highs back here, and you'll notice that the RSI had kind of flatlined. We got a double top here in the RSI. So the fact that this peak up here was not higher was an indication of fatigue. Now, you can see where recently, okay, we've had these higher highs up here, right? These three recent highs that coincide with lower highs on the RSI. So the fact that the market is moving higher, making higher highs and higher lows, while RSI continues lower since December, that right there is a bearish divergence in the RSI. So even though I don't use RSI with my own trading, I wanted to bring this to your attention because I find this right here incredibly interesting as the market continues higher within this pattern. Now, RSI by itself, guys, is really of little use, because without these levels that you see on the chart, without any of this up here, if you just looked at RSI and you saw this, right, you would think, okay, it's time to sell. Well, if you had done that, you would have been selling back here. And notice how the market just continued to move higher quite a bit since that point. So this is why, if you are going to use indicators like this, be sure to use them in combination with price action. all right, in combination with levels on your chart like these here, because again, without them, this down here is really meaningless. All right, so the confirmation here for this market, if we're going to see a move lower from the S&P, we do have a trend line off of these lows from back here late last year that I think is going to be really interesting. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the RSI down here to make this a little bit easier to see. Okay, so if we look here at this trend line down here, this is what it's going to take for the SPX to rotate lower. As long as the market is above this trend line here, you can see where it was below it right here. This was about an hour before the daily close, and it did recover right into the close. So you have to be really careful trying to get short up here without confirmation of a sustained break below this trend line. And it's like I said, markets can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. So even though you look at this move and you think the market has to pull back somewhere, up here, it doesn't have to do anything. Okay, I do think it's likely, but it doesn't have to do that. And so waiting for confirmation on that sustained break below this trend line down here is critical. Now, obviously, if we see the S&P 500 break above this and just base above this, then there's a good chance that that right there produces a move higher. Okay, so we have to respect both outcomes because the bottom line here, the fact is that we don't know where this or any market is going to go. All right, now let's take a look at the DXY, and then we're going to circle back here and take a look at some other key levels on this chart, and also take a look at the Nvidia chart because there is an event next week coming up that's going to be critical for that market. And even though Nvidia is not an S&P stock, it is going to affect the stock market. All right, so looking here at the DXY, guys, this tends to move inversely to risk assets. And by the way, before we get into this, if you guys are enjoying this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also click the bell icon for notifications. And don't forget to smash the like button to show your support. Okay, so for the DXY, obviously the market's getting hammered today. And this is a bit ironic because we did have producer price index here in the US come out today well above forecast numbers. So that's an inflation reading very similar to the CPI that we got on this green candle. So obviously that move there for CPI coming in above forecast was bullish for the dollar. But so far, this is kind of interesting because we're getting the dollar selling off despite the fact that PPI came in well above forecast numbers. So it kind of makes me think, is this a move where we're going to get a retest down here toward 105.3 to 105.8, followed by a move higher next week, right? And it's also a Friday, so you do have to be careful with this. Now, the key for the DXY going into this daily close is going to be this area back here at 104.2. So we've talked about this area between 104.2 and 104.45 a lot, and this continues to be the critical area for the DXY. So it's no coincidence that if you go to the hourly, okay, or even the 4-hour time frame, notice where we've seen the market kind of bounce back and forth here over the past day, right? Right between these two levels. So what I think is going to happen here, what could happen next week, if we get the DXY closing below 104.2 today, okay, then this area up here becomes resistance. And I do think there's a good chance that we see a sweep of these recent lows right back here, okay, to where we get the move down here toward 104.8 and potentially a tag of 103.5. Okay, so essentially this area right down here, which really hasn't been tested yet. Now, that would make some sense because you can see this big green candle back here has not been retraced at all. Okay, so there is an imbalance down here for the DXY right now below these recent lows. So a move down here into this pocket would not surprise me at all. But I think that the biggest mistake that you can make, and this goes for any market, is thinking that this right up here, even though this is a fake out, okay, this does not mean that the market has to move considerably lower. And a perfect example of that is right back here. Okay, so if we go back here toward this period, you can see where we've got these highs right here, very obvious. We've got these highs through here. We saw the DXY break out, very similar to what it did this week, close back below, at which point traders probably thought, okay, the market's just going to do this, and instead it continued its rally. Okay, so perfect example of why, you shouldn't get too bullish or bearish on a market just because of one move, right? It's going to take, if this market's going to get bearish, it's going to take a sustained break below areas like this, these lows down here, and something sustained over days and weeks, right? Until that's the case, areas like this here at 104.2, down here at 103.8, 103.5, etc., all of those are going to be key support for the dollar. Okay, and again, this is going to matter because it does tend to move inversely to US equities. All right, so let's take a look now at Nvidia here, which I have no levels on this chart, but really you don't need any levels to see that this market has been on a crazy rally ever since back here in January. So essentially from the year-to-date low, from this low down here, this market has moved at current levels about 56%. Okay, now there is an earnings call on Wednesday of next week. And again, Nvidia is not an S&P stock. It's a NASDAQ stock, but we know that the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 tend to move together, right? So this right here, this call on Wednesday of next week is going to be really, really critical for these markets. Okay, and the reason I'm bringing this up is when you look at this kind of move, okay, the fact that it's moved 56% since the year-to-date low, and keep in mind too, that this is not a small stock. This is a $1.83 trillion stock. For those of you who are gamers, I'm sure you know Nvidia. So when you look at this right here, it really makes you wonder what they're going to have to say on the earnings call next week to keep this going, right? What are they going to have to say to keep these investors happy and just doing this after the call, right? At some point, this is going to pull back. And what's also interesting is that the last two earnings calls down here, you can see right here and right here, both of these triggered pullbacks, okay? And when you look at where we are right now, there's a good chance that this earnings call does the same thing. Now, this is not something that I would trade on an earnings call. That is the last thing that I would want to do because the issue with that is that you would essentially have to get in before the day closes. And if you short this and the market gaps up here, you're not going to get stopped out where your stop is. You're going to get stopped out where the market opens. Okay, so do not short an earnings call like that. That is not what I'm saying. But, just given the fact that we have seen pullbacks on the last two earnings calls, given the fact that Nvidia is up 56%, we have this earnings call coming up on Wednesday of next week. It's not an S&P stock, but it is a NASDAQ stock, and the two do tend to move together. All right, so when you combine all of that, guys, everything that we talked about here, the RSI, Nvidia call next week, I think that you have to be really careful with this market. And I do think it's getting to a point where we are likely to see a pullback over the coming days. All right, now let's take a look here at key levels for the SPX. All right, so if we take our horizontal level tool here, we've got these highs from right back here. That's easy enough to see. Of course, you've got this low too, but I think that this one down here, right around 4,800, is going to be one to watch. And then, of course, we have the high from back here. All right, so you can see that intersects right here with this swing high. We've also got this high right through here. So we have 4,600 and 4,800 on the way down. And again, as I said earlier, this trend line right here is going to be the one to watch because it's going to take a sustained break below this in order to confirm that we have a top in place. All right, until that time, we could see a retest up here of the resistance area above this recent high or just more consolidation, but you do have to be careful, like I said, with a market with this much momentum without a confirmed breakdown. But given everything we've discussed here in this video, and given where the market is trading right now, I do think that over the next few days, let's say within the next week, there is a good chance that we do get a pullback from the US stock market. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon for notifications, and also join Blueberry Markets and deposit $200 or more for lifetime access to our VIP group. See the link in the description of this video. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you all again tomorrow.